So, fat loss nutrition. The primary objective has to be sustaining a moderate calorie deficit. Why? Because a calorie deficit is the only way to burn body fat. No calorie deficit, no fat loss. Period. How does a calorie deficit work? Consuming fewer calories than our body requires forces it to look inwards, to look at internal fuel resources such as body fat. Make no mistake, when it comes to fat loss, a calorie deficit is king. Tracking our food and drink on MyFitnessPal makes achieving a calorie deficit easy. By keeping a tally of our calorie intake across the day, MyFitnessPal allows us to manage what I like to call our daily calorie budget. A calorie budget works the same way as a financial budget, i.e. where the goal is not to under or overspend, or ideally where the goal is to spend as much of it as possible without going over. By managing our calorie budget consistently over weeks and months, we will sustain a calorie deficit, and hence we will steadily burn away unwanted body fat. Naturally, the size of our calorie budget will differ from person to person. A typical budget for females is around 1,500 calories per day, and for males, typically around 2,000. Although this will be impacted by variables such as weight, age, and height. Now, this is important. In order to 1, maintain quality of life, and 2, prevent unwanted muscle loss, our goal must be to keep our calorie budget moderate in size and not make it too small. Would a larger, more aggressive calorie deficit yield faster results? Hell yes. Would it be enjoyable? Would it be sustainable? Hell no. And remember, a successful nutrition strategy has to be built upon sustainability and consistency. It has to be realistic, and we have to be able to stick to it for the long term. For this reason, aggressive calorie deficits or small calorie budgets often offer a short-term solution only, which is not what we want. Ensuring that you have the skills and the confidence to masterfully manage your calorie budget is something that I place great emphasis upon. Now, this does not mean avoiding certain foods. It doesn't mean eating healthy all the time, eliminating carbohydrates, eliminating alcohol, being overly restrictive, being overly rigid, sacrifice, suffering, sadness, misery, or any other unsustainable behavior or negative emotion that would clearly result from an aggressive calorie deficit. It doesn't even mean that we necessarily have to eat less food, provided that we know which foods will give us more bang for our buck, or in other words, more food for our calories. What it does mean is that all foods come with a price tag in calories, which basically means that managing a calorie budget is above all a number crunching game. Our objective is to ensure that you always feel in control of your budget, whatever life throws at you. Fancy some pizza and ice cream? Cool. Budget for it. Or maybe smart swap Ben and Jerry's for Halo Top. Spontaneous boozy night with friends? Cool. Budget for it. And perhaps choose white spirits and sugar-free mixes over beer or wine. Maybe even hold back some calories from earlier in the day. Had a stressful day at work and eaten an entire lemon drizzle cake? Don't worry. Emotional eating happens to most of us. It's part of being human. Seriously. Nothing is ruined. Be kind to yourself. Reflect upon what happened. Understand why it happened. And crucially, learn from any mistakes. And then get back on track. If you do this each time, then trust me, you cannot mess this up. It really doesn't matter if you go over your budget from time to time. We have enough calories in the bank. Also, since all food comes with a price tag, note that there are no such things as bad or fattening foods. No food is bad, wrong, or off limits. All food is legit. We just need to account for the calories. We are all about freedom and flexibility. That said, some foods are more budget friendly than others. For example, high protein and high fiber foods will fill us up more quickly and keep us fuller for longer. This would reduce the likelihood of us feeling the need to snack in between meals and thus reduce overall calorie intake across the day. On the other hand, when we spend calories on sugary carbs or liquid calories, we won't feel full for long. We'll then feel hungry and want to eat again, which is a pattern of behavior that can rack up the calories fairly quickly. Does it make sense to spend most our calories on goal-supportive foods? Absolutely. After all, goal-supportive foods take us closer to our goal. Naturally occurring foods like vegetables, fruits, whole grains, healthy fats, and lean proteins are not only budget-friendly, but they also provide us with high-quality nutrients, vitamins, minerals, protein, and fiber, for example. But do we need to eliminate pleasure food from our diet? I'm talking junk food or alcohol. The answer is absolutely not. You see, in moderation, pleasure foods can also take us closer to our goal. How? Because in moderation, they contribute to our holistic well-being. They can make us feel good, and hence they help keep our strategy enjoyable, achievable, and most importantly, sustainable. For me, a little and often approach is much more preferable to a let's wait until the floodgates burst approach when it comes to pleasure food. Binges can often be the consequence of an overly restrictive nutrition strategy, one in which we label junk food or alcohol bad and we try and eliminate it from our diet. Learning to enjoy pleasure foods in moderation is a valuable skill. I cannot emphasize this enough. It is one that will help keep our nutrition strategy sustainable long term. And it's one that a lot of people really struggle with. Suffice to say, whilst indulgent or junk food might not do much for us physically, as we all know, the psychological benefits can be huge, and we need to accommodate that. When it comes to indulgent or junk food, the devil is in the dosage. As I hope you're beginning to see, when it comes to mastering our calorie budget, knowledge truly is power. Just to finish, note that since we're able to achieve a calorie deficit through nutrition alone, any calories that we burn via exercise will be a bonus and not a necessity. To summarize, when it comes to fat loss, achieving a calorie deficit through managing our calorie budget is our top priority. And managing your calorie budget is a skill. It requires practice, it requires knowledge, it requires new habits. Next time we will look at protein, which, as you can probably guess, is our second priority. Until then, stay awesome and keep going.